Another week underway. Jack's over here rigging some rods, getting ready for what? Live bait leeching bass smackdown.
Hopefully.
Gonna go out tomorrow with the kids. It's Memorial Weekend. It's Memorial Sunday. Tomorrow's Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day to everybody, and hopefully you enjoy some time with family. And please take a moment to remember those soldiers. On this Memorial Day. Remember, there's a lot more than cookouts and barbecues and fishing at stake here, and what's going on this weekend and the symbolization behind Memorial Weekend. It's not just a chance to get out and have a good time. It stands for something. So please take a moment to remember those fallen soldiers, those that gave the ultimate sacrifice for our country, so that we can do these things like fish and have barbecues and live in this great country. So happy Memorial Day to everybody. And again, please take a moment to remember those that served and those that gave the ultimate sacrifice. So this past week of fishing, I've been all over the place. I spent a couple days up on Leech Lake chasing walleyes, caught some pike, tried to catch some crappies. I've been northeast metro. I was on Minnetonka. I went out to Wisconsin and on Lake Wapagasset, and I've done a gamut of things here this last week. Found some consistencies. We saw some cooler temps, of course, up north in Walker. We targeted walleyes, like I said. I did not slam them by any means. I caught enough fish to be happy. I caught them on a really cool presentation with a jig head and a plastic tail. I'll show you exactly what I used. Otherwise, the bass fishing was fun. They're right where they should be. They're on that shallow inside weed line transition. Fish actually pulled off their beds just a hair, which is not surprising when you get some really cold weather. We had some mornings where we woke up in the 30s, and there was even parts not further north of us where they woke up in the 20s. Yes, third, fourth week of May, end of May, 30-degree weather to start the day. I put back on this Blackfish soft shell stuff. I had my stocking cap on. It was cold. It was rainy. I fished with Chad Grigsby last Thursday, and it was cold and rainy, but the fish were chowing. So with that, get out and fish. So if you have the comfortable clothes to do it, like we do with Blackfish, I can get out there and chase down fish, and I can be in the elements, and I don't need to be miserable. You can't catch them on the couch. You got to be out in the water to catch fish. And then you saw my post the other day where I made the comment that my Uncle Kenny has imprinted in my brain since I was a little kid. It was, you can sleep when you're dead. So get up, chase down some fish. If you got a day to go fishing, don't let the weather be a deterrent. Get out there, dress appropriately, and go fishing. Because like we saw on Thursday with some of the most miserable weather this entire May, it was arguably one of our better days of fishing. We caught a lot of nice fish, some big fish. It was a lot of fun. And we got the adrenaline pumping, so you forget about those cold conditions. So get the appropriate clothing. And if you plan to go fishing, don't take the day off. Get out there and get after it. So how do we catch our fish? So I wanted to talk about how I caught them up on Leech. And this actually worked on Leech and a nearby lake. And I used this exact same presentation for a variety of species. We caught walleyes, northern pike, largemouth bass, smallmouth bass. So this presentation is a good all-purpose setup, and this works well in a variety of situations, a variety of bodies of water right now, early in the year where you're fishing shallow weeds, immediate weed lines. I'm not out off main lake structure, fishing deep reefs and fishing all that kind of stuff right now, or deep rock piles. We're not quite there. Water temps are in the mid to low 60s, depending on where you're at here in our region. So we're not quite seeing those true summer patterns. We're seeing those spring patterns still. We're seeing some fish moving back into a pre-spawn, or maybe just post-spawn for your walleyes. And we're using situations and using presentations like this. So what am I fishing? I'm fishing a drop TG. This is a tungsten jig head. And I was using either an 1/8 ounce or a 1/4 ounce, depending on the situation. So the biggest thing is you want to feel that jig at all times. You want to feel the lure, and you want to feel contact with either the bottom, weeds, rock, whatever it might be. If you don't feel that bait, that's a big rule of thumb in any kind of jig fishing, whether it's jigging for walleyes, jigging for crappies, jigging for bass, whatever. If you can't feel the presentation, you probably need to use a heavier lure or change your line type or something to that effect. So this one is a 1/4 ounce drop TG, and I'm using that Sassy Swimmer from Mr. Twister. It's a brand new lure this year. I've caught a pile of fish on it. It's just a little paddle tail, a ribbed paddle tail, and we caught a pile of fish pitching this. I just rigged this up on this jig head, and you can see that tail. It just wobbles in the water, and I can pitch this, and I can swim it back to the boat slowly. I can pop it. I was actually rip jigging this through the edge of the weeds to get those walleyes to bite. Same thing with the bass and the pike. So this jig head paddle tail ribbed sassy swimmer combo from Mr. Twister really caught us a pile of fish. And all I'm using is a 7-foot medium action spinning rod. You can use a medium light spinning rod. I got about 20-pound thin diameter micro braid, like a nanofill or something to that effect. And I'm putting a fluorocarbon leader. I got about a 3 to 4 foot fluorocarbon leader on there, 10-pound fluorocarbon or 8-pound fluorocarbon leader on there to keep it invisible. And then I got a 2500 series Shimano Stratic CI4. This rod I had built from my good friends at Thorne Brothers. Super light setup, and you can go all day catching fish. And like I said, you can fish walleyes, bass, pike, everything. You can just go fishing with this setup. So that jig and plastic combo caught us a pile of fish. We also fished, of course, chatterbaits and swim jigs. The all-terrain swim jig is what caught them for me on Minnetonka and on North Metro lakes that we were fishing here. On Thursday, Friday, I caught a lot of fish on an all-terrain swim jig. I was using, 3/8 ounce. I wasn't using super heavy. I wasn't up to a half. I was using probably 3/8 ounce. I did throw a little bit of 5/16, but 3/8 ounce definitely caught the most fish. And I was throwing just a paddle tail on the back of that, and I could cover a lot of water. The exact color I fished is not with me. It's in my boat, but this is to give you an idea. I think I've showed you this lure before. I'm not using this color. I was using the bait series, the natural bait series. I was using the IU or the perch, and I was using the matching paddle tail back on that because it really resembles what I think are bluegills. And they're eating on those bluegills, those sunfish, maybe perch, they're eating on those, but they're eating on bluegills and smaller fish about the size of that swim bait from All Terrain. Oh, sorry, Jack. Bonk Jack in the head with a fishing rod. And covered a lot of water and chased down some fish, and it worked really well. And same concept with the chatterbait. I'm casting, reeling it in, working it, maybe some really subtle pauses, really quick pauses. I'm not letting it sink and flutter down in the weeds. I'm working it, maybe pause for a second so that bait swims, and then darts back up. So when I'm reeling it in steady and I pause for a second, that bait comes in, stops, and then it rips back. So work it in, pause, work it in, pause, and then that bait kind of gives you an erratic movement. Sometimes, especially when we get some of these cooler conditions, it triggers those fish into biting. So I was using that sort of approach. We caught some fish on some spinnerbaits. We caught a lot of fish on wacky rigs. Wacky rig comitas were hot for us. The ladies, my wife and my daughter, went out fishing yesterday, and they schooled everybody, including myself, on a wacky rig. They're just fishing, I don't know if I have the exact one they were fishing. They were using a green pumpkin comita, plain hook. We had fluorocarbon leader, 20-pound braid, let it sit. That's the toughest thing about wacky rig fishing, is it's a do-nothing approach. Cast it out there, we're catching fish in like 6 to 10 feet of water. They weren't quite way up on the bank. They were just off the bank because you have these cooler temps, and you have to let it sit. So you cast it out there, feed it some more line, flick the bail, and this is what you do. You just sit there, and then reel up just enough so you can keep some tension on the line, so you can feel it, and then you see it. You can see it and sometimes feel it when a fish bites, and then set the hook and bring it home. So wacky rig's a fun way to fish. We catch them that way all summer long. So haven't really gone on to jig worms and Ned rigs yet. I envision that being something here in the next couple of weeks where we start to get slowly into our summer patterns. I think I saw 80s and maybe even 90 later this week. It's going to get hot. We're going to get some really warm weather this first week of June, which, all right, here we go. Welcome to Minnesota. Beginning of the week, mid to upper 80s. Later in the week, 30s. That's what we get here in this lovely state that we live in. So expecting to chase down some more fish, chase some bass this week. We're going to spend a bunch of time on Lake Minnetonka. I'm going to try a variety of patterns, see if I can get some things to be consistent. I know that Denny's is out there on Tuesday, so let's see how these guys and gals fare in this first tournament of the season on Minnetonka. I saw a lot of them pre-fishing on Friday when I was out there. Oh, the bluegills, they're starting to spawn, so if you want to have some fun and catch some panfish with the kids, I took husband and wife, a co-worker and her husband, and their 2 kids out on Friday, and we caught a pile of bluegills and sunfish. They were up spawning on the inside weed line, so you can see them. You can visually just cruise around and see them spawning. It's not hard to find these spots. I'd encourage you to let some of the bigger ones go, especially the big females that have eggs in them, if there are some on the beds. Otherwise, a lot of them are males that are guarding the nest. So fun time here to chase some panfish too. So a lot of opportunity right now. We are jumping into the first week of June. Hard to believe June here is approaching. Next time we talk, it'll be our first report for the month of June. So again, have a great Memorial Day tomorrow. Enjoy it with family and friends, and please, again, take a moment to remember those that gave us the ultimate sacrifice this Memorial Day, and set some hooks, have some fun, and be safe.